So I'm sitting with Jim McEwen today. He's the co-founder and director of Masinyusane, or Masi in short. I think I'll just tee Jim up here and tell you a little bit about him first. So Jim's a big American guy, had a career in finance on Wall Street in New York, and in 2008 moved to South Africa. Has to pursue really a purpose in Africa and see if he can make an impact in what we're doing here. He's also married a local woman here in South Africa, and in the last couple of years has had twins. Man, I'm not sure how you're handling these twins. I've got one, and it's a handful in itself. So Masi, which is the organization, nonprofit that Jim founded, works in education. And Jim, one of the things I really love about Masi is that you guys work with primary school kids to high school all the way to university, and really you guys are removing the obstacles which are helping people to learn and get education, and you guys are really getting your hands dirty there in how to get rid of those tough obstacles that some people in South Africa have worse than others.
Yeah, cool. So our job, as we see it, is really to create opportunities for children and youth to get the best education possible. And we try to do that by assisting within the education system wherever we can. The number one thing we need to give to a child is to love them, show them that we believe in them, and help build up their own confidence and self-esteem. And then once you get that, the most important educational aspect of helping a child is children's literacy. So we invest a lot in children's literacy from the ages of 5 to 10, grade R through grade 3. All of our money, time, love, energy, resources goes into teaching children how to read. Once they have that foundation, it unlocks everything else in terms of being able to learn, having the confidence to learn, and believing in yourself. So that's the heart and soul of what we do. We work across a bunch of schools in the township, and it's all about giving children an opportunity to grow and develop, and that's step one. That's the foundation.
That's really amazing, bro. I've experienced it too with you. I've been into your schools and seen how your facilitators and people are really engaging and loving those children. One of the other things I think is really cool is you use local people in South Africa and students who are part of your student program to teach the children in the schools and be facilitators. Maybe you want to tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so the spirit of the project is to empower the local community to uplift itself. So we hire literacy coaches. They're youth in the community that are unemployed, and we bring them into schools. We build libraries and literacy centers, and then we pair them up with children, and they work one-on-one, teaching them how to read, write, and comprehend. That's by far the best way to teach a child to make progress. There's tons of research behind just one-on-one work. You immediately are working at the level of the child. They're getting a lot of attention, and they make fantastic gains. Many of our kids are in classrooms with 50 or 60 other children, so they just can't get the attention. And the poor teachers have no chance. The level of the kids is so different, and they just have to race through the curriculum. So our team is like a small army on the side, taking kids one at a time for an hour, all day, every day. We have 60 youth hired right now working in the community. And yeah, youth unemployment, it's like 80% in the townships. It's really, really high. And that is also just a crime in terms of young people being able to grow and develop. And as you've seen, they're super talented. They're full of love and energy. So we try to create a space for them to give back and help others. And I love the fact that it's young people from the community helping to educate children from their own community. So they become role models and leaders, and it's a stepping stone job for many of them to bounce into something else. Almost everybody, it's their first professional work experience. So it's a really great project. I think that will grow a lot in the years to come.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there about giving children attention and love, and the fact that you're managing to impact two sets of people at the same time. The people that have come through your program are getting the confidence and end up being mentors to showing the younger kids as to what can happen if they get the attention, the love, and they put the hard work in.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned something earlier, which has reminded me of a story. A lot of your libraries and schools where you work in, I remember a couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember this, one of my first interactions with you, we went and took a group of volunteers to go and paint a school, which would be, great enthusiasm from the community and from our people who are volunteering. But the next day you called me and said, listen, man, I really appreciate the support and love the energy, but your people can't paint and volunteers can't paint. So you've had to hire a professional painter in to come and fix up what we did. Funny, because that's always stuck with me, man. And it's actually shifted a lot of as to how we do things within the foundation now. And realized that the people on the ground really do know what they're doing. And you need to keep people specialists in what they're doing. I don't know if you remember that time. There was a fun day.
Yeah, I do. When Tacoma Primary School, I've made those mistakes myself over and over and over again over the last 12 years. And it's one of those things where it's just as the nature sometimes of volunteer projects and short-term projects is you end up just creating a little bit of extra work.
And I really appreciated that comment, because it shifted how we approach things too. And one of the examples, maybe we can touch on that, is what you've been doing now during lockdown and in the response to COVID-19. So we obviously have a big network within the Church of volunteers and people who want to be involved in community outreach. And during lockdown now, people haven't really been able to, but you guys were really stepped up and decided to start helping with a food drive. Just to recap, the people that wouldn't know about that drive, many primary school kids don't get food at the moment because they would normally be getting their 2 meals a day from school. So there's a lot of kids going hungry. Jim, together with 2 other organizations, have been sourcing food and then delivering it to the families, working with the school teachers and the community leaders. So we were part of that drive and organized a race and a bit of a fundraising drive. But Jim, maybe tell me, what was one of the coolest stories or inspiring stories that's come out of this food drive for the children?
Yeah, sure. So for me, the most heartening thing has actually been how many of the teachers and principals show up on those days and how proud, excited they are and how much they care. Just to give a little bit of context, what we are doing is asking teachers and principals within our network, which is about 100 schools in the townships, to identify children in their classroom they know live in abject poverty and would be hungry. And then the principal will call them and invite a guardian to the school to pick up a food parcel that's put together by someone like yourselves. So the parents are so grateful. It's almost embarrassing to be giving out food and having people crying and wanting to hug you and thank you constantly. That's not at all why you do it. I always feel uncomfortable in those situations. But so many of the teachers have showed up and we don't need them there, nor are they even invited. We're just working with the principals and trying to keep crowds down. But it's been really heartening to see the schools come together and want to help the children in the communities. It's actually inspired me a lot in terms of really wanting to invest more in these schools, because it's a really difficult time. No one's being paid to be there, and they're still coming in just to help facilitate the day, say hi to the parents, send love to the kids. We see so many teachers going up to parents and telling them to say hello to a specific kid. It's really been a heartening experience on that front. And this goes without say, but the amount of thanks, not only from the parents, but from the teachers and principals out to the community at large helping them, has just been overwhelming. I wish everybody could see that. It gets directed at myself and our staff because we're there in person, but it's really, people are so grateful to know that others are reaching out and trying to help out.
I love that. I really love that. I think it's so heartwarming as well to know that the leaders of the schools and the teachers and the communities are really behind this too, and people are caring and looking after our kids, and they care for them. It's not just about food. It's really about, as you say, there's people sending messages to tell kids they say hello and they miss them. And I think, we can really get closer as communities during times like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so tell me just an interesting question. If we change direction a bit here, in your experience of working in America, in Africa as an American, what is one of the smallest things that someone's done that you feel has impacted humanity or made you feel good about humanity?
Yeah, so I have the same story in my head that I think about a lot. When I first came over here, I was volunteering with some different organizations, and I had all these dreams and visions, and I don't know, I was really naive about the amount of change I could bring about, what I would do, and blah, blah, blah. And I was traveling through the Hillbrow community in Johannesburg, which is a more impoverished community. It was super crowded, loud, chaotic, with a Catholic nun, this tiny little nun. And we're walking along the street, and she's telling me she's worked there for 20 years and she does this and that. And I had heard this child crying, but didn't really process it. There's so much noise and chaos everywhere. Anyway, I'm talking to her, and I realize after a couple seconds she's not by my side anymore. And I turn and look over my shoulder, she's not there. I turn around and I see her kneeling 2 or 3 meters behind me with this little child that was crying. And it was a reminder of like stopping and just helping that one little child. And I think about that all the time in the schools. When my staff walks around with me, they go crazy, teachers as well, because I'm always stopping and holding the hand of a child or talking to them. But it really hit home that these grand plans and like visions and this, at the time I was really into starting this microfinance organization. That all is nice and can make a difference. But if we're not stopping and helping the person immediately in front of us and slowing down, coming from New York, slowing down was something I needed to learn. We're really missing the trees for the forest, to use that term. So I think about that all the time, and I'm constantly trying to stop and put my arm around a child or pat a child on the back. I try to never walk by someone that's struggling, or God forbid, a child crying. I still feel shame right now talking about that story, because I cruised right by that little kid without a second thought.
It's so cool what you say. I mean, it links to what you said earlier about attention and really giving the children the attention they need. And I can see it just in my personal life. I've got a 1-year-old now, and people are just crying out for attention and love, and it is about being still and quiet and just finding that time to step out of yourself and be, okay, well, I'm going to give someone my full attention, and that is worth so much. So that's really cool.
Yeah, parents learn this. I was not a parent back then. Parents are much better at this because children teach you.
Definitely. Okay, so I have a last question for you. Maybe a little bit controversial, but let's see. Have a go at it. Why do people care but not act?
Yeah, good question. I don't have an easy answer, though. I do think that there's a couple contributing factors. One is just inertia, hard to get started. But 2 is it's difficult to know what to do. And when you feel a little bit of uncertainty, taking a step and actually doing something is tough. I spend my whole life in these schools and communities, and I still hesitate, pause, and slow to do things I wanted to because I don't know exactly what to do. I don't know exactly how. Even now with the feeding program, I wish we started it a week earlier, but I just wasn't sure how to get started. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. When you couple then that in South Africa with how enormous the need is to intervene, you almost don't know where to begin. So earlier I said that word opportunity. We see ourselves as like opportunity creators. That's how I define the word development. In terms of children getting an opportunity to get an education, grow and develop. The flip side of that is I tried to create opportunities for people to give and to help out and to get an experience doing that, because I know how hard it is. And sometimes if you do one thing or 2 things, you start to figure out other ways that you actually can make a difference and can help. So I think most people do want to give and most people do want to help. It's just difficult here in South Africa to to figure out how and when, and because of that and the uncertainty around it, it just ends up on the back burner or staying in the back of your mind.
Yeah,
It's been my experience.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it probably comes down to capacity as well, with everyone living such busy lives. And it's been interesting to see now during this lockdown period how people have had to slow down a bit, and I think have had to reflect on what they do get up to. So I think, like you say, creating opportunities. But for me personally, I've said, okay, well, what I'm going to do is really slow down and give more attention to small things. And I think that's something that you and I have spoken about a lot now. It's come up today, is that it's actually not about doing something big or heroic. It's about stopping and looking someone in the eyes and caring for them. If that's your first step, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, for sure. One of the cool things about like Father's House Foundation is that not only, yes, we're helping those that are in need, but it brings, I think, a lot to someone's not only spiritual life, but just well-being to help others. And you're constantly creating those opportunities, whether it's people buying coffees for doctors and nurses, or people feeding little children in schools. That also is really important. And in terms of, people being able to help and giving them those opportunities is like giving them a gift. It's giving them the gift to give someone else a gift. So we're blessed to work in that space. It's one of the things that I take seriously and I'm very grateful to be able to do.
Awesome, Jim. Well, we're gonna end it there, and it's been awesome chatting with you. Thank you for sharing a bit about what you do.
Yeah, and again, just a very sincere and heartfelt thanks for everybody that's supported our kids through the pandemic with food and even painting Fumisakoma and everything else. We're really grateful, and we value and appreciate the partnership.
Well, great, man. Keep doing what you're doing. We'll keep supporting you guys and cheering you on. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks. Take care.
Cheers.
God bless.